My name is Lydia Jimenez. I'm 29 years old, and for most of my adult life, I thought stability was something people valued. Turns out some people crave the chaos more than the calm. Alan used to tell me I was his safe place. Back then, I thought it was the sweetest thing anyone had ever said to me. Now, when I look back, I realize that to him, safe meant predictable, and predictable meant boring. We'd been together for almost 4 years. I was a software developer who loved quiet nights, simple food, and the kind of laughter that didn't need an audience. Alan, on the other hand, worked in marketing. His whole world was built around impressions. He didn't just live life, he curated it. Every dinner, every outing, every smile, all had to fit neatly within a feed-worthy square on his social media. At first, I admired that about him. His energy, his drive, the way he could walk into a room and somehow command the light. We were opposites that balanced each other out, or so I thought. Over time, the balance shifted. He started teasing my quiet habits, calling my favorite cardigan retirement chic, or my tiny car a rolling participation trophy. He'd say it with a laugh, but there was something in his eyes, a glint of disdain he didn't bother to hide anymore. I'd smile and brush it off, tell myself that every couple goes through phases, that maybe he was stressed at work, that love was about patience. But love shouldn't make you shrink. It was around that time Alan started mentioning a new coworker, Melissa. She had joined his team as a creative strategist, fresh ideas, big energy, as he described her. He talked about her often always with this strange mix of admiration and amusement. You'd like her, he'd say. She's fearless, always chasing the next big thing. The first time I saw Melissa was through Alan's phone. A group selfie from some after-work event, Alan grinning wide, Melissa leaning a little too close, her head tilted toward him. The caption read, "Team Synergy never looked this good." I stared at that photo for longer than I care to admit. Something inside me twisted quiet but sharp. It wasn't jealousy, it was recognition. The same way you recognize a storm forming before you ever feel the rain. One evening, while Alan was out networking, I scrolled through his Instagram. There she was again. Melissa tagged. In his stories, champagne glasses, neon lights, city views. He never posted about me, but suddenly his life looked like a commercial for success, one I apparently wasn't cast in. When he got home that night, I tried to ask about it casually. You and Melissa seem to be getting along, I said. He smirked, shrugging as if it were nothing. She's just driven Lydia. You could learn a thing or two from her. She doesn't settle. Settle, I repeated. He looked up from his phone, not even realizing the weight of what he'd just said. Yeah. I mean, you're so comfortable. You never want more. I wanted to ask what's wrong with comfortable, but I didn't. I just smiled faintly and said, maybe I just know what I already have. He didn't answer. He was already back to scrolling the light from his screen, reflecting in eyes that no longer looked at me. That night, while brushing my teeth, I caught my reflection in the mirror, toothpaste foam on my lip. Messy bun, oversized t-shirt. Alan's words echoed in my head like a bad song, comfortable, predictable participation trophy. For the first time, I wondered if he still saw me, or if I had become background noise in the highlight reel of his life. Days passed. He started coming home later, smelling like expensive cologne that wasn't his. I stopped asking questions I didn't want answers to. Silence became our truce. Then, one Sunday morning, he left his laptop open on the kitchen table while showering. I wasn't snooping, not really, but when a message notification flashed across the screen, I couldn't unsee it. Melissa, you made last night unforgettable. Wish I didn't have to share you with the world tomorrow. The coffee mug in my hand felt suddenly too heavy. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, the steam rising between us like a fragile fog of denial. When Alan came out, towel around his neck, humming like nothing had happened, I simply closed the laptop and walked away. He didn't even notice. That evening, I took a long walk alone. The city buzzed with life cars, laughter, streetlights flickering against the drizzle. I stopped at a small cafe and sat by the window, my reflection overlapping with strangers passing by. For the first time in years, I felt completely invisible. Then my phone buzzed. A notification from social media. Alan had posted a new photo, him and Melissa, sitting close on a rooftop bar, champagne glasses in hand. The caption finally found someone who speaks my language. And there it was, the moment everything inside me went quiet. I stared at the screen, my chest hollowing out until a comment below caught my eye. His friend. "She's so much more fun than your last girl." Alan's reply. "Yeah." Lydia was sweet, but she's the kind of girl who gets a participation trophy in life. My fingers went numb. The cafe's chatter faded. I reread it 3 times each word, cutting a little deeper until all that was left was a dull, cold ache. I didn't rush home. I didn't call him. I just sat there watching the rain streak down the glass, realizing something profound, that sometimes love ends not with a fight, but with a sentence. When I finally got up, the city was dark and quiet. My reflection followed me all the way back, and for once I didn't look away. He once called me his safe place, but maybe he never wanted safety. Maybe he wanted an audience. And I was done being background music in someone else's performance. When I woke up the next morning, the world felt different. Not louder, not quieter, just empty. Alan was already gone. He'd left a note on the counter that said breakfast meeting. Don't wait up, as if I still waited. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, the same spot where we used to laugh about dumb memes and plan our weekends. Now it felt like I was sharing breakfast with a ghost. The silence was suffocating. Every clock tick was a reminder of something that had already died but hadn't yet been buried. My phone buzzed. It was my friend Clara, the one who'd been there long before Alan. "Clara, I don't know if you've seen this, but you deserve to know." Attached was a screenshot, Alan's latest post. The one from last night, him and Melissa, that champagne photo I had already seen, but this time the full thread of comments. I hadn't scrolled down far enough before. Under his smug caption, "Finally found someone who speaks my language," were dozens of comments, mostly congratulatory. Then one from a mutual friend that made my stomach twist. "She's way more ambitious than Lydia ever was. You two are perfect together." And Alan's reply, the same words that had been haunting me. "Lydia's sweet, but she's the kind of girl who gets a participation trophy in life." That line again. That same ugly, mocking phrase. I didn't cry. I didn't throw my phone or scream into a pillow like in the movies. I just sat there perfectly still, my coffee turning cold in my hands. It's strange the way heartbreak can feel so quiet, like all the noise in the world gets turned down just so you can hear your own pulse. By the time Alan came home that evening, I had replayed that comment in my head 100 times. He walked in humming casual, oblivious, smelling faintly of expensive cologne and guilt. "Hey," he said, tossing his keys into the bowl by the door. "You're quiet tonight." I looked up from my phone, my voice steady. "I was just looking at something you posted." His smile faltered. "Oh, what thing?" I turned the screen toward him, the screenshot glowing between us. "This one." He froze, just for a second. Then that familiar smirk returned, the one that always came right before he lied. "Oh, come on," he said lightly. "That was just a joke. You know how comments are. People exaggerate." "Do they?" I asked softly. "Because it doesn't read like a joke. It reads like contempt." He sighed, feigning exasperation. "Lydia, you're being dramatic. It's just social media. You take everything so seriously. It's part of your problem you're too sensitive." I tilted my head. "Sensitive, you insulted me in front of everyone we know." "It wasn't an insult," he said, brushing past me to pour a drink. "It's just you. You're nice. You're comfortable, but you're not ambitious. You don't push boundaries. You're safe." He said safe like it was an insult. So I said quietly, "Melissa's ambitious." He looked over his shoulder, his expression unreadable. "She is. She knows what she wants. She's not afraid to chase it. She gets me." "Gets you," I repeated, my voice a whisper. "You mean she likes the spotlight as much as you do?" He laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. "God, this is exactly what I mean. You just don't get it, Lydia. You've got no fire, no edge. I need someone who challenges me." Something in me shifted then, something small but permanent. I set my phone down on the counter. "You're right," I said calmly. "You do need someone else." He blinked, caught off guard. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about this." I gestured vaguely around the apartment, the walls we painted together, the couch we chose after arguing over fabric swatches, the life we'd built one quiet evening at a time. "You don't want it. You've made that clear." "Don't be ridiculous," he said, setting his glass down too hard. "You're overreacting." But I was already walking to the bedroom. I opened the closet, grabbed the small suitcase I used for weekend trips, and began folding my clothes. Alan followed me, and his voice rising. "What are you doing?" "Leaving." "What number, Lydia? Stop. Don't be impulsive." I didn't look up. "You said it yourself. I never take risks." He grabbed my wrist, not roughly, but enough to make me pause. "Can you just talk to me?" "I am," I said, meeting his eyes. "Just not the way you expect." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us felt heavy, too full of things unsaid, too late to fix. He looked at the half-packed suitcase, then back at me. So you're really going to throw everything away over a comment? No, Alan, I said softly. You already threw it away. I'm just picking up what's left. His jaw clenched. You're making a mistake. You'll regret this. Maybe I said zipping the bag, but at least it'll be my mistake. I walked past him out of the bedroom and into the living room where the faint smell of his cologne still lingered. I paused by the door, looked around one last time, not at the things, but at the memories attached to them, and then with a deep, quiet breath, I left. He didn't follow me, not right away. I could hear his voice behind me somewhere between confusion and denial. Lydia, come on, don't do this. But I didn't turn back. When the elevator doors closed, my reflection stared back at me, tired, yes, but steady. Outside, the night air hit my face cool and clean. I didn't have a destination yet, just the clarity that comes when the noise finally stops. As I walked toward the streetlights, I realized something simple but powerful. Sometimes silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's the sound of reclaiming your peace. And for the first time in years, I was ready to hear it. The first night alone was the hardest. Not because I missed Alan, but because I didn't know what to do with the silence he left behind. The apartment I found was small, tucked between a bookstore and a laundromat. It smelled faintly of old wood and jasmine from the neighbor's window box. The walls were thin, the rent was cheap, and for the first time in years, the space felt mine. No matching decor curated for social media, no fake smiles for photos I didn't even want to be in. Just me and the sound of rain tapping softly against the window. I slept on a borrowed mattress that first night, surrounded by boxes labeled kitchen clothes and maybe later. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but instead I felt something quieter, relief. The next morning, I opened my laptop. It was an old project I'd abandoned months ago, a budgeting app I once dreamed of developing into something real. Alan used to tease me for it. You really think people want a boring finance tool? You should focus on something flashier, he'd say, scrolling through his phone. But that morning I opened the code again. Line by line, bug by bug, I started fixing what I'd once left unfinished. Days blurred into nights. I'd work until dawn, fueled by black coffee and the hum of the city below. The app wasn't glamorous, but it worked clean, functional, honest. It reminded me of who I used to be before I started apologizing for it. Sometimes I'd catch myself staring at the clock at 11 p.m., remembering that's when Alan used to come home. I'd imagine his keys jingling, the smell of cologne, his half-smile when he'd say, "You're still working." And then I'd remember who that smile was for now, and the thought didn't sting anymore. Weeks passed. My friends invited me out, but I rarely went. Not because I was sad, but because I was healing. There's a difference. Healing isn't loud. It's not posting inspirational quotes or deleting photos dramatically. It's learning to sit with yourself without needing someone to fill the space. I found little joys in the ordinary, the smell of toast in the morning, the way sunlight stretched across my desk, the soft buzz of my code editor. The life Alan had mocked as boring began to feel quietly beautiful. One afternoon, while checking my emails, I saw a notification from the App Store. Congratulations, your beta version has been approved for testing. I stared at the screen, my heart thudding with something I hadn't felt in a long time: pride. I wanted to tell someone. For a brief second, my fingers hovered over Alan's contact. Then I stopped. He wasn't the person I wanted to share this with anymore. Instead, I texted Clara. Hey, remember that app I was working on? It's finally live. Clara, Lydia, that's incredible. I'm proud of you. How are you feeling? Peaceful, I replied, and tired. But the good kind of tired. That night, I celebrated alone with takeout noodles and a cheap bottle of wine. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. No filters, no captions, no audience. No. Still, curiosity is a stubborn thing. I hadn't blocked Alan on social media. A part of me wanted to see if he noticed I was gone, so I looked. His feed was a highlight reel of the life he'd always wanted: rooftop parties, designer clothes, Melissa on his arm. The captions were painfully familiar. Living my best life. When you know, you know. Real ones only. I should have felt hurt. Instead, I felt nothing. But as the weeks went by, I started to notice the cracks. Fewer posts, vaguer captions, smiles that looked more forced. Then one day, Melissa posted a photo alone. The caption read, "Some people love the attention more than the person beside them." I stared at it for a long moment. Then, without overthinking, I closed the app, deleted every trace of my old accounts, and went to sleep with a quiet smile. A few mornings later, my phone buzzed again, an unfamiliar number. Unknown. Hey, it's Alan. Just checking in. How are you? I didn't answer. I didn't even read the rest of the message. For the first time, ignoring him didn't feel like an act of revenge. It felt like freedom. Weeks melted into months. My app started gaining traction. A few small blogs wrote about it. Then a finance influencer featured it in a video. Downloads doubled overnight. I sat by the window of my little apartment, watching the sunset paint the sky gold and pink. My laptop dinged with new user registrations, and I couldn't help but laugh softly. Alan once said I was too comfortable. Maybe comfort isn't the absence of ambition. Maybe it's the reward for surviving the storm. As I shut my laptop for the night, I whispered to myself, peace isn't boring. It's just something he'll never understand. And in that stillness, I realized the silence that once terrified me had become my greatest companion. It's funny how time softens the sharpest memories. By the time autumn rolled around, Alan had become just another name in my past one I didn't flinch to hear anymore. My life had found a rhythm. Mornings began with strong coffee and soft jazz. Days filled with client calls, code reviews, and quiet victories. My app, once a forgotten folder on my hard drive, was now being featured in online forums and tech newsletters. People were actually using it, sending messages of thanks for helping them save money or budget smarter. I didn't tell anyone, but every time I saw a new download count, I whispered, "You see, Lydia? This is what patience builds." And then, like clockwork, the past tried to find me again. It started with Whisper's mutual friends reaching out with the kind of hesitant tone people use when delivering gossip they're not supposed to enjoy. Hey, did you hear about Alan and Melissa? I hadn't. I didn't want to, but they told me anyway. Melissa's fancy lifestyle, the cars, the penthouse parties, the expensive vacations had been funded by more than just her salary. Apparently, she'd been skimming from the marketing budget at their firm using company credit cards for client entertainment. When it all came to light, she threw Alan under the bus, claiming he'd been part of the scheme. The fallout was brutal. They were both fired. Alan's reputation, once built on charm and networking, crumbled overnight. The same people who toasted him at rooftop bars stopped answering his calls. For weeks, I heard fragments of his downfall through the grapevine, a rented car, repossessed unpaid debts, a landlord demanding back rent. He'd gone from hosting champagne parties to crashing on a friend's couch. I didn't laugh, I didn't gloat, I just felt this strange, quiet stillness, the kind that comes when karma finally stops circling and lands where it belongs. Sometimes justice doesn't roar, it whispers. One afternoon, as I was working from my favorite cafe, I saw his name pop up again, this time on my phone screen. Alan, hey, I know I don't deserve it, but can we talk? I stared at the message for a long time. The blue glow of the screen reflected on my coffee cup, trembling slightly as my hand hovered over the reply button. Then I turned the phone face down and went back to work. That evening, I released an update for my app. Within hours, it was trending in the top new tools section. My inbox flooded with messages, small business owners, students, parents, all thanking me for creating something that actually helped them. Alan used to say I played it safe, but maybe safe wasn't a weakness. Maybe it was my strength. A few days later, Clara called. "Lydia, you won't believe this," she said. "I saw Alan today." "Oh," I asked, my tone neutral. "Yeah, he was at the diner on 5th, waiting tables." I didn't say anything. I just let the words hang there. Clara hesitated, then added, "He looked lost." The next morning, curiosity got the better of me. I stopped by the diner on my way to the office, and there he was. Alan, the man who once mocked my simplicity, wearing a faded uniform and carrying a tray, smiling politely at strangers who barely looked at him. He didn't see me, and I didn't approach him. I just watched for a moment, the way he forced a grin, the way his eyes flickered with exhaustion. It didn't feel satisfying. It felt final. When I left, I walked slowly, breathing in the crisp autumn air. Somewhere behind me, I heard someone calling his name, and for the first time, I didn't turn around. That night, as I sat by my window, the city lights blinking like tiny promises, I thought about all the years I'd spent trying to be enough for someone who only valued the performance of success. Alan had wanted a winner. Melissa had wanted attention, and somewhere in their collision, they both lost everything. Meanwhile, I, the participation trophy girl, had built something that no one could take from me. Not a facade, not a fantasy, but a foundation. My phone buzzed again. A new email, a small startup offering to collaborate with me on expanding the app's features. I smiled, not because it was validation from the world, but because it was mine. As I drafted my reply, I whispered to myself, maybe being underestimated was the best advantage I ever had. The world outside kept spinning noisy, bright, and fast, but inside my little apartment, everything was still warm and peaceful. And for once I didn't feel behind. I felt free. It was a Saturday morning, soft sunlight spilling through the blinds, the kind of quiet day that felt like a clean slate. I was sitting by the window, laptop open, editing the next update for my app when I heard the knock. 3 slow taps, hesitant, familiar. At first, I didn't move. My chest tightened in a way I hadn't felt in months. I told myself it could be a delivery, a neighbor, anyone but him. But when I opened this door, there he was. Alan. Only not the Alan I remembered. His once styled hair was unkempt. His shirt wrinkled, his face drawn and pale. The confident gleam in his eyes, the one he'd once used to charm entire rooms, was gone. In its place was something hollow. Lydia, he said softly, can we talk? His voice cracked on the word talk, as if it had been rehearsed and broken in the same breath. I stood there, the morning breeze brushing against my arm, his shadow stretching across the floor. What are you doing here, Alan? I asked, my tone steady but cold. He tried to smile, but it came out crooked. I know I'm the last person you want to see, but I didn't know where else to go. I hesitated for a moment, not out of pity, but because I remembered what it used to feel like to love this man. Then I stepped aside, wordlessly motioning for him to come in. He walked in slowly, looking around, as if seeing my apartment made something inside him ache. It was simple, but bright, soft curtains, books neatly stacked, a plant by the window. Everything he used to call boring now looked like peace. This place, he said quietly, it suits you. I know. He nodded, glancing down at his hands. You look different. I feel different. Silence settled between us, heavy, but not uncomfortable for me, just unfamiliar for him. He was used to filling space with noise, charm, performance. But now he had nothing left to perform with. Finally, he exhaled a shaky sound. Melissa's gone, he said. I didn't react. She left when everything fell apart, took what little money I had left and disappeared. The company's suing her. I lost my job, my apartment, my car, everything. He looked up at me, then his eyes pleading. I made a mistake, Lydia, a huge one. I tilted my head slightly. Which one? He blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? There were a few, I said evenly. Leaving me, publicly humiliating me, calling me a participation trophy, or choosing someone who treated you the same way you treated me. Alan swallowed hard. All of it. I was stupid. I didn't see what I had until it was gone. You didn't lose me, I said softly. You threw me away. He winced, looking at the floor. I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me. I wanted to say I'm sorry. His voice cracked again, and for the first time I saw not arrogance, but regret. Real regret. Still, the wound he gave me had long scarred over. I used to dream about hearing you say that, I admitted quietly. But now that you have, it feels empty. He looked up sharply. Empty. Yes, because the person who needed that apology doesn't exist anymore. Alan stepped closer. Lydia, please. I've changed. I've hit rock bottom. I've realized what matters now. Do you really think regret is change? I asked, my tone steady but sharp. You're not here because you love me. You're here because you're lonely. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, unable to argue. I don't need someone who remembers my worth only when the world forgets theirs, I said quietly. He took a deep breath, his eyes glassy. You were my calm in the chaos, Lydia. My safe place. I gave a small, bittersweet smile. And you were the chaos I mistook for love. The words hung between us like glass about to shatter. He looked around my apartment again, the small signs of my new life. My desk filled with sticky notes, the new laptop Alan never saw me buy, the half-finished painting by the wall. Proof that I didn't just survive without him, I grew. His gaze softened. You've done well for yourself. I have. I'm proud of you, he said, his voice trembling. Don't be, I replied. You don't get to take pride in a story you abandoned. Alan nodded slowly, his shoulders slumping. So that's it then. No second chances. I sighed, but there was no anger in it. Alan, there was a time I would have given anything for another chance. But that version of me, the one who begged to be seen, she's gone. He pressed his lips together, then whispered, I really did love you, maybe I said softly, but love without respect is just noise. For a long time, neither of us moved. The sunlight shifted across the room, falling between us like a line neither could cross. Then gently I stepped forward and opened the door. You should go, I said. He hesitated. Lydia. Goodbye, Alan. He lingered in the doorway for a second, long enough for me to see the realization hit him, that the door he'd once slammed shut himself was now closed forever. I didn't slam it. I didn't lock it dramatically. I simply pushed it closed until it clicked softly into place. The sound was small, almost insignificant, but to me it was thunder. I turned back to my desk. My laptop screen glowed with an email notification, a potential investor interested in partnering on my app. I smiled, wiped a small tear that wasn't for him, but for the girl I used to be, and whispered, "You were right about one thing, Alan. I am safe, but that's not weakness, that's peace." Outside, I could still hear his footsteps fading down the hallway. And with every step he took away, the silence grew lighter. A year passed. Funny how time doesn't heal all wounds, it just teaches you to live beautifully around the scars. My life was unrecognizable from the one I left behind. The little budgeting app I'd built out of heartbreak had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. It was now a full platform with real employees, real users, and real investors. I had an office space downtown, modest, sunlit, filled with people who believed in the same quiet kind of success I once got mocked for. Sometimes, when I passed by the glass wall of the meeting room and saw my name, Lydia Jimenez, founder and CEO, printed on the door, I almost didn't recognize her. The girl who once thought stability was boring had built an empire out of it. Peace had become my brand. And yet I didn't post about it. There were no filtered photos, no hashtags, no performance. I learned then that the most meaningful victories happen away from the noise. One Thursday evening, I attended a networking event, not because I needed to, but because Clara insisted. "You've been working too much," she said. "Go out. Breathe. Talk to people who aren't made of pixels and code." I smiled and agreed. The venue was sleek but intimate jazz music, soft lighting, conversations buzzing like background static. I stood near the bar, sipping sparkling water, half listening to someone talk about venture capital, when I felt a presence beside me. "Excuse me," a gentle voice said. "You're Lydia Jimenez, right? The one behind Ledgerly." I turned. He was about my age, maybe a year older. Crisp white shirt, rolled sleeves, a notebook tucked under his arm. His smile wasn't the confident kind Alan used to weaponize, it was the kind that came from quiet admiration. "Yes," I said, surprised. "That's me." He grinned. "I've been using your app for my small business." "It's brilliant. You made accounting feel human." I laughed softly. "That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about a budgeting tool." He chuckled, then extended a hand. "I'm Daniel. I run a local publishing house." We talked for a while about apps, books, and the kind of satisfaction that comes from creating something honest. No pretense, no performance. Just two people speaking the same language, one built on calm rather than chaos. As he left, he said, "I hope this isn't too forward, but maybe we could grab coffee sometime. No pitch, just conversation." For the first time in years, I felt something unfamiliar. Not the dizzying rush of infatuation, but a quiet curiosity. "Coffee sounds nice," I said. After he left, Clara appeared beside me, smirking. "Well, someone's blushing." I rolled my eyes but couldn't hide my smile. Maybe peace isn't so boring after all. That night, I walked home through the cool city air, my heels tapping softly against the pavement. The skyline shimmered, and for a brief moment I thought about Alan. Not with anger, not even with sadness, just detachment. Wherever he was, I hoped he'd found something that made him reflect. Because I finally understood the truth. He never did. You don't need to win loud to win big. Success isn't about proving someone wrong. It's about proving yourself right. I unlocked my apartment door, the same quiet space where I'd rebuilt everything from the ground up. The same window where I'd once sat watching rain fall on the city, wondering if I'd ever feel whole again. Now that same window framed my reflection, stronger, softer, smiling. I placed my phone on the desk. The screen lit up with a new message. "Daniel, still on for coffee tomorrow." Me wouldn't miss it. I looked around my apartment, the faint hum of the computer, the comforting clutter of a life lived fully, and whispered to myself, he once called me the participation trophy girl. But I wasn't losing. I was learning how to build my own game. Outside, the city lights flickered like applause from a distant audience I no longer needed. And in the quiet, steady rhythm of my own breathing, I finally heard the sound of victory.